And welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk. This program is brought to you by Paveuni Michelle Beaudry. Paveuni Michelle Beaudry provides quality materials and products that will help beautify your yard. And now I'll go into our sponsor. So Jessica, you went to the community meeting, the quarterly community meeting last night.
I did.
And I heard it was very exciting.
You can say that.
Tell us.
Sure. Well, the stuff on the agenda included membership, as always.
Mm-hmm.
But what was first on the agenda, besides the most amusing land allotments, was the MCK received a petition from North Creek residents. I'm not really sure where the North Creek area of town is.
It's down near the old Step-by-Step, or where the cultural center is.
Okay.
It's by that way.
And well, the residents were complaining that the creek, I don't know if you ever go near there, like the water doesn't really flow through there anymore.
Not as much as it did in the past.
So residents were complaining of the smell and stuff like that. And Chief Rhonda Kirby announced this at the community meeting and said that they're dealing with it, and it's mostly, like, this smell is mostly caused by the stale water that doesn't flow, and a weed that takes up the whole creek and stuff like that.
So what do they want? Do they want them to make the water start flowing again? Or
I guess
do
they just want
them
it
to go, fill in the creek?
I guess it was just to deal with it. I know she did mention that some wanted it to be filled, but that's not possible because the water does need to
run off.
Yeah.
And that's been an issue for a lot of years when you have overflowed or the ditches like that they repatriated, refixed them up to go into the seaway, and they cleared them out years ago. And some years, if we get a lot of snow, then there's water through them, and other years when there's not, it doesn't. But now that we're getting into a more modernized community, put it that way, structurally, as far as the infrastructure, the roads and everything are concerned, with the curbs and everything else, there still needs that runoff. Even before the curbs, they needed the runoff if there's too much. If not, people flooded. If you look a few years ago, or 10 plus years ago, we had a lot of flooding in the community. And now it's less because of the curves are directing it into the sewer systems, the overflow of that. It would be an expensive venture to try to, you wouldn't be able to close them, but I think that you might be able to put piping in there, but even then.
Yeah, I know I do. The strange thing about it is if you go back to 50 years plus to when the seaway was built, I mean, those were all those creeks. There were a number of creeks through town that served the purpose naturally to, but there was always flooding down below. In fact, where the current radio station is, in that area before the seaway. So the water used to flow down. It was for runoff. But things have changed dramatically overall. Even the grade of the land, I think, has changed in a lot of places. So you end up with this kind of situation. So what you're talking about, in a way, is kind of retro engineering the lay of the land, and it's I don't think it's that easy.
Well, and I also think that when community members, when we start discussing all the problems that are coming up now in the community in this day and age, it's because when you start off with a small amount of people in a small community, and then the community grows, you're going to have all these growing pains, because now we're built next to railways and seaway. The seaway came in, and we have big highways and hydropole. It's crazy the amount of things that the community and the individuals who live here have to put up with. Trains right in their backyard, and you know what I mean. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but we are in like a major hub for transportation, and
there's a lot of safety issues and concerns, and we could do a show just on that. I mean, the band community meeting is a lot. I mean, we'd like to keep covering all that, but I'd like to have more information on the membership issue.
Well, Carl Horn gave a update, which basically, it didn't really seem like an update to me, besides the announcement that information sessions are starting soon, this month actually, at the PK station, so people can go to those
Is that part of the community decision-making
I think it's,
process?
what I got from it was that it's gonna like lead into the community decision-making process.
All right, because one of the other things, of course, we heard about over the last week is that there is at least a move to start a petition to reinitiate the eviction process. But apparently there was nothing that was delivered to the community meeting, to council.
Not that I'm aware of, but
yeah.
What I find about about this issue through some of the notes that you've written about last night was about how the Mohawk Council has recently met with the peacekeepers, who told them that they cannot enforce the evictions because it won't stand up in the Longale court.
Hence, I've been saying all
suggested
the
the Mohawk
time.
Council could register the law with Ottawa.
And that's the only way. And we had this discussion so many times. Every
You
law in this
know?
community, and I say it all the time, that it doesn't matter what Mohawk Council decides the laws that they want to make, decision making or not, they're never going to be legal. They're illegal laws.
In the eyes of Canada. You know what,
because you know what, that's who's going. That's where you're going to
Yeah.
fight these.
Yeah.
Nobody's staying in this community and going to the decision-making process to fight anything because it's stacked against them from the day one.
Or they feel
You know?
that it, not necessarily it's stacked against them, but that they feel that there won't be the checks and
won't be
balances in a
fair.
legal system that needs to exist.
And I'm not talking about just a membership law. I mean that's going to be a big issue. But every other thing that's here, it's it's tough. We want to make a court system, but unfortunately, it's not enforceable. The ABC law is not enforceable. The police are always going to tell them the same thing, that we can't do anything about it because because they can get in trouble for enforcing an illegal law. You know what I mean? It doesn't make it's hard because then they'll be up for lawsuits. So it's a tough situation on the enforcement part. If people comply with any laws that this community decides to make, then it'll work. But when it doesn't,
You know what, one of the things that brings to mind is like in what direction do we go as a community to say, well, okay, we understand that under Canadian law, they're not going to respect the laws that are made by this community regarding anything, whether it's alcohol, whether it's tobacco, whether
unless they approve it first.
Unless they approve it, okay, which basically means that it agrees with their law, it harmonizes with their law, basically. So what direction are we headed, and what does it mean politically in terms of, if Karawanggi as a community of Mohawk people wants to make its own laws, then under what system does it make those laws?
But
So
are we
that-
trying to establish that right now? Like, isn't the Mohawk Council and the community trying to establish a justice system in the community?
But again,
the justice system, as I understand it, in terms of the information sessions, it leaves a lot of questions in terms of, yeah, but really, I mean, under what though?
Yeah,
I mean, I've asked the questions.
Under Mohawk law?
Is under what constitution?
And there's no such thing as Mohawk
Maybe
law.
we need to create our own constitution. Maybe these are things that need to go through the community decision.
Some people would say that
process.
we have our own constitution.
The Guyana Goa.
But the thing is, you know what, when it comes to...
But they're not on that page though.
Yeah, but when it comes to laws and
No, and there's not a meeting of minds
And
between
there's-
traditional and Mohawk
yeah.
Council.
But I mean,
and there may
there-
never be.
there's not even meeting of minds when it comes to what laws should be, they should try to enforce. You know what it comes down to? Make any law you want. The problem is at the end of the day, is when it comes to the enforcement issue. If somebody doesn't follow it, then what recourse do you have? Right now, there's none. There's none. And that's the problem. That's why, and in the membership situation, the police are actually telling them that we can't do anything about it.
But here's the thing, look, there's a law, and we'll talk about that later, that's been proposed. Any number of laws that can go into the queue. You can even put the membership law back into the queue, and you can discuss those things. But unless you figure out, okay, under what is this going to be, then we're still in the same place. We're still going to be at square one. We're still going to be talking about how it's unenforceable, and it's unenforceable under Canada's Constitution. It's unenforceable under the laws of Canada, Quebec. You can name any number of things. We talk about alcohol, Quebec laws, gaming, Quebec, Canada.
And it's not that I'm not against it. I think that the community should have our own laws, and we shouldn't have to go outside to deal with it. Unfortunately, that can't happen, you know, and it's not happening, and there's no recourse. Where's the appeal process? There has to be a fairness somewhere, and unfortunately, the systems that we have right now are not fair to everybody, and they're not one-sided, but they're weighted more to one side, and that's the difficult part. So where do we go from here? It's still an unanswered question.
But see, there's a lot of people in this community who would support our own constitution, whether it be the Gayana or something that we create that you know is similar, but that we have our own laws. We uphold our jurisdiction and our sovereignty. I don't think anyone is comfortable in this community with saying that they want to go to outside courts, that they would prefer to be Canadianized. I mean, there has to be some steps toward upholding our sovereignty and upholding what rightfully we should be controlling, not Canada and not a Canadian constitution. So where do we go from here? Now, you know, we could go and debate this all day, but the one thing that I found interesting was in terms of this whole membership issue, the justice, whatever, now the Mohawk Council is saying, we're hitting a wall. We're hitting a wall. MCK wants the community's feedback on what to do next and how far. Now, I'm only 36 years old, and I feel that forever we have been dealing with this issue. So people who are older than me must feel so frustrated that this issue just cannot get solved.
Because we're hitting a wall. You know, it's like,
maybe we're not having the right approach.
Yeah, no,
And that's what people were complaining about at the community meeting.
What
But here's
were
the
some of the the comments from community members?
Well, exactly all the stuff we're discussing right now. Like, there wasn't too many, I would say, questions. It was more like people standing up, expressing their feelings on that issue.
But I would just say one thing. Look, as long as we function under the Canadian Constitution, we are always, every time we try to do something like a membership law or any law that's internal, that's community generated, we are going to end up in that position. As long as we function under that. I've talked to people, counselors on air. I've talked to, I even the last Grand Chief. I talked to him going back to Robert Nault, and when he saw the first draft of the membership law, he said, "If this is your law, then we can forget about this whole governance thing." So that is always there. So the hard questions that we need to ask ourselves: okay, are we use the term nation, we use the term sovereign, and we even debate, can we really be that? Can we really be that? Okay, but until we deal with that, I mean, I think we're chasing our tails. You know, this is the issue with the membership law. When the eviction thing started last year, you knew it was going to end up there. I knew it was going to end up there. I don't think anybody in this room thought it was going to be any different that we would be having a discussion
It
like
just
this.
got so heated, and it took up so much energy and time from a lot of people and families in this community. But we got to go to a commercial break. We're going to come back with more on this issue and more on the community meeting after this quick break. And we're going to go back to Jessica and see what sort of reactions community members are giving at this point. So don't go away, a lot more here on Stray Talk.